All students will be able to explore the properties of a parabola and then be able to graph them using the vertex form, standard form, and intercept form. How do you go from vertex to a different form? So what we're going to do is I'm going to just use the letters, our variables here, to show what I'm going to do. Something squared, quantity squared, means it's that by itself. So we're going to bring this down and bring this down. We're going to go ahead and do these here first. So we're going to distribute out, FOIL it out. So x times x is x squared, x times negative h times x, and then negative h times negative h. And now we're going to distribute this by everything. Bring down the k. Now we got like terms in the middle. So here's an example using numbers. So we're going to go 2. We're going to leave these two parentheses side by side. And then we're going to distribute the two sets of parentheses. So x times x, x times 1, 1 times x, and 1 times 1. We're going to simplify here. We're going to bring down what we haven't used yet. Now we're going to follow our order of operations. So now we're going to multiply everything here by 2. And then bring down that plus 3. And now at this point we can add this 2 and 3 together. But notice how much more work we had to do just to get it into this form, and then that's not even talking about the amount of work that we're going to have to do to actually graph it. So that's just going from vertex form into standard form. But let's talk about, real quickly, the properties of a quadratic function already in standard form. So if it's already in standard form, let's just work with it. It's going to open up if the a out in front is positive. It's going to open down if the a out in front is negative. It's going to become narrower or wider based on the value of a. So it's going to become wider if a is a fraction between 0 and 1. And if a is a number greater than 1, it's going to become narrower. So what used to be here will become like this. And what used to be this way will become like this. Our axis of symmetry is going to be x equals the h value of the vertex. Now that didn't change. That's the exact same thing as what we had in our previous example. And then our y-intercept is always the c value at the end. Now this only works if it's in standard form. So you see at plus 4 at the end, that means our y-intercept is going to be 0, 4. And the reasoning there is that, remember, y-intercepts are when x is always 0. So if I were to plug a 0 into here, those would just all be 0, and you would get 4 anyways. Now let's talk about how to graph something that's in standard form. So first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find the vertex. And you find that by doing the opposite of b over quantity to a. Now, they go in order. It goes a is in front of the x squared, b is in front of x, and c is at the end with no letter or variable next to it. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and do opposite of your b would be opposite of this. And then a is the number out in front. Okay, so that means our vertex is going to be -1 something. So how do we figure out the y value that's associated with that? We plug that in. So now we're going to go 2 parenthesis -1 squared plus 4 parenthesis -1 minus 4. We'll do our order of operations. That becomes 1 times 2. 4 times -1 is -4 minus 4. So 2 minus 4 is -2, minus 4 is going to be -6. So our vertex is a coordinate -1, -6. You see how much more difficult this already is compared to vertex form? So we're going to go ahead and put our vertex in our table. Okay, so after you find the vertex, you want to then find the y coordinate of the vertex, because the first step was only the x coordinate. And then we're going to make a table, and then we will use the equation to finish the table. So I'm going to go 0, 1. So now I'm going to plug a 0 in wherever there is an x. So anything times 0 is 0, anything times 0 is 0. That will give me -4. Now I got to plug a 1 in. So that's 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 1. And that will give me 2 as the final answer. So now I want to plot these. And I'm also going to use my axis of symmetry just like I did before. Use axis of symmetry. Okay. We're going to start with our vertex in -1, -6. Remember, that's our axis of symmetry. Goes through our x coordinate of our vertex. 0, -4. And since that's 1 square away, the other way is going to be the same. And then 1, 2 is right here. It's 2 squares away from my symmetry line. And there is an example of how you graph an equation in standard form. In my opinion, that's a lot of work.